You've been watching your yard for years, maybe only a few years, maybe much longer. You know which feeder the chickadees prefer. You've noticed which side of the yard the cardinal uses in winter. You've learned the particular alarm call that means the Cooper's hawk is somewhere nearby, just out of sight. But here's something I want to ask you to think about for a second. In all that time, all those mornings at the window, all those hours of watching, how many dead birds have you found? I've been doing this for about 5 years now. Paying real attention, I mean. 2 feeders, a sweat cage, a heated bird bath out back. I've watched hundreds of birds come through this yard. The Tuesday couple, the chickadee pair that shows up every Tuesday morning like clockwork. 4 winters running. And the notched feather cardinal, the one who first appeared the November my dad died. He hasn't missed a November since. In 5 years, I've found exactly 1 dead bird. 1. A house finch beneath the kitchen window. A window strike, last February. That's it. A few months ago, I started asking, where are they all going? Because the numbers say a lot of birds are dying in my yard. A lot of birds die in every yard. They just aren't dying where you or I can see them. It turns out this isn't an accident. It isn't coincidence. It's one of the most layered survival behaviors in the animal kingdom, still running in birds that are actively dying right now in yards just like yours. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going through 7 reasons why you almost never find a dead bird, what actually happens when a bird disappears from your yard, and what that tells us about how birds live, not just how they die. Subscribe if you haven't. Stay until number 7. I've saved that one for last because it has to be last. Number 1. The birds that are gone. Let me give you a number first. Cornell Lab of Ornithology estimates that roughly 1.3 billion birds die in North America every year from cat predation alone. Add window strikes, about 300 million annually. Add disease, starvation, weather events, migration failure. Researchers who study this for a living land on a figure somewhere between 3 and 4 billion bird deaths across the continent, every single year. Your yard is not exempt from that math. Most songbirds, your chickadees, your house sparrows, your dark-eyed juncos if you're in the mid-Atlantic, have a life expectancy of about 1 to 2 years in the wild. Not because they don't live longer in captivity. Because the wild is genuinely difficult, and most birds that hatch don't survive their first winter. That means the majority of birds at your feeder right now are in their first or second year of life. A mourning dove sitting on your fence might weigh 120 grams, one of the heavier birds in the yard. A tufted titmouse, 22 grams. Whatever the species, a significant portion of the birds you're watching this week will not make it to spring. The math is just the math. The thing is, you're not finding the bodies. Neither am I. I've been watching this yard for 5 years with the kind of attention most people reserve for things they're getting paid to observe, and I've found one bird. So the math and the reality don't match. That gap between how many birds are dying and how many bodies we ever find is what this whole video is about. Pay attention to this, because everything else only makes sense once you accept that the gap is real and it is large. The research coming out of Cornell's citizen science programs gives us part of the story. But the most surprising piece isn't about where the bodies go after death. It's about what dying birds are doing while they're still alive. Number 2, the last performance. Here's something that genuinely unsettled me when I first read it, and I want to try to get it across clearly. Studies on dying songbirds, research from the University of Cambridge, and tracking data from labs at Ohio State following individual banded birds over multiple seasons documented that sick birds maintain normal outward behavior almost until the moment they physically cannot. They eat at feeders. They sing. They respond to alarm calls. They hold their position in the social structure of the yard. The technical term for this is physiological concealment. It's not a choice exactly. It's deeper than a choice. It's an evolutionary pressure that has been running longer than your house has existed, longer than there were feeders in any backyard anywhere. In the world birds evolved into, showing weakness is a death sentence. A Cooper's hawk or a sharp-shinned hawk can spot a sick bird from 60 to 100 feet away based on posture alone. There's a concept researchers track called flight initiation distance, FID, the minimum distance a predator can approach before a healthy bird will flush and flee. In sick birds, that distance collapses. They let danger get closer. They hold still when they should fly. A predator notices this from far enough away that the bird never gets a second chance. So the body fights to appear healthy, long past the point you would expect. I used to think the birds that disappeared had just moved on, found a better yard maybe, found a warmer side of the street. I thought that for a long time. What the research tells me now is that a bird sitting quietly at the tube feeder on a December morning, taking seed the way it always does, might be running the final hours of its performance. And you would not know. I would not know. The bird is not going to show you. There is a bird at your feeder right now, and I have no idea, and neither do you, whether that bird is on its last day. Because it won't look like it. Not until it can't pretend anymore. Number 3. The final retreat. When a bird can no longer hold the performance, when dying becomes something the body can't conceal, it goes somewhere specific, not randomly, not just away from the yard, into cover, dense shrubs, ground-level brush, the thick matted base of a holly bush where branches press close to the soil, the tangle of a climbing vine against a fence post 10 inches off the ground, invisible from above. Anywhere that cuts sight lines to the sky, that breaks the open geometry of a yard that a hawk reads from above like a map. This is the same instinct that governs where birds roost on the coldest nights. Get low, get covered, get out of sight of anything that hunts from above. But when a bird is dying, that instinct becomes the only instruction left running. It overrides the food drive. It overrides the pull of the flock. In the final hours, everything narrows to one thing: find cover and go still. Researchers at the Max Planck Institute for Ornithology, tracking mortality in passerine birds, the songbirds and perching birds across both European and North American populations, have documented that the vast majority of natural songbird deaths occur below the brush line, in dense vegetation, in locations that are essentially invisible from above. In suburban yards, that means the base of foundation plantings, root tangles under ornamental junipers, the interior of a rosebush no one has pruned in 3 years, the deep inside of shrubs that were never planted with birds in mind, but have become, entirely by accident, the only places thick enough to disappear into. The holly bush by my back fence, the one the cardinals use in spring, where they nest in the fork about 4 feet up, has a base I almost never look into closely. Matted old branches, dead leaves that accumulate there and stay. I don't go through it. I don't know exactly what's in there. I think that's by design. Number 4, the cleanup crew. And here's where I want to be honest about something, because this is the part I had wrong for a long time. I used to resent the Cooper's hawk. I did. Every time it came through, the feeders went empty, the songbirds scattered, and I'd stand at the window watching the yard go still for 30 minutes. I thought of it as a disruption, the enemy of what I was trying to build out there. I thought that for close to 2 years before I started reading more carefully. Here's where it gets less comfortable. The Cooper's hawk, and the sharp-shinned hawks, and the American crows you've probably thought of as nuisances, as loud and aggressive birds with nothing useful to offer, are not just predators. They are a processing system. They are, in significant part, the reason your yard doesn't have bodies in it. It's not a cleanup service. It's not a favor to you. It's not there to make your mornings more comfortable. It's a system that has been running for longer than the concept of a backyard has existed, and it runs whether any of us appreciate it or not. The research on corvid scavenging behavior from the University of Washington shows that crows can locate a carcass within hours, even in dense cover. In warm weather, a songbird that dies in your yard may be gone within 12 to 24 hours of death, even if it made it deep into a shrub. In cold months, a little longer. But the endpoint is the same. The evidence disappears. Here is the uncomfortable part. If you've put up hawk deterrents, if you've chased the Cooper's hawk off the fence, if you've harassed the crows out of your yard because they were loud and you didn't like them, you've disrupted part of the system that makes death invisible. I am not saying the hawk should be welcome to take songbirds from your feeder. I'm saying the ecology is more connected than it looks from the window, and I learned that the hard way, and it changed how I manage what's out there. I've backed off. The Cooper's hawk comes through twice a week now. I watch it. I leave it alone. We have an understanding, more or less. Number 5. The one time you do find the body. I want to talk about window strikes, not to make this a guilt exercise. I say that as someone who didn't put up window film until year 3, but because they are the main exception to everything I've been describing, and understanding why tells you something about the rest of the story. Birds that hit windows die differently. They die fast, often on impact, almost always in the open, on a patio, a step, right beneath the glass. There is no time for the retreat into cover, no time for physiological concealment to run its last miles. The bird drops in plain sight, where you will absolutely find it. Cornell Lab of Ornithology estimates 300 million bird deaths annually from window collisions in North America alone. About 300 million. That works out to roughly 1 bird per household per year, on average, across the entire country. Which means most people who pay any attention to their yard will find a body under a window at least once. The house finch I found last February. That was mine. That's the one body in 5 years. And it happened in the one circumstance where birds don't get to follow the instinct. The glass found it first. Window film works. The kind with a pattern birds can see, but humans mostly don't notice. It's not a perfect fix, but it drops the numbers significantly. I should have put it up earlier. I held off because it didn't look quite as clean, and I knew that was the wrong reason, and I did it anyway for 2 years before I put up the film and stopped finding excuses. Number 6. The last morning at the feeder. Stay with me here, because this one has stayed with me. Research tracking banded individual songbirds over multi-year periods, work published in the journal Animal Behavior, found something I genuinely wasn't prepared for. A significant portion of birds that died during the study period had been active at or near feeders within 24 hours of their death, not behaving strangely, not acting sick, just at the feeder, doing what they do. At 3:37 in the morning, on a January night when the temperature was 18 degrees, a banded black-capped chickadee left its roosting cavity in a dead oak and visited 2 feeders before sunrise. It was recovered 41 hours later. The case notes recorded no documented abnormal behavior in the final 24 hours of observation. A chickadee weighs 11 grams, 2 pennies. Surviving a winter night at 18 degrees costs a chickadee close to 10% of its total body weight in metabolic reserves. When those reserves are gone, they're gone fast, not gradually, not in a way that announces itself. The bird is there, and then it isn't. The bird at your feeder this morning may have been running on its last margin. You couldn't have known. I couldn't have known. That's not a failure of attention. That's how it works. I don't know what to do with that. I genuinely don't. But I can't watch the Tuesday couple come to the feeder in February now without something like this sitting somewhere in the background of it. Number 7. This is the one I've saved for last because it has to be last. The way you find out a bird has died, in a yard like mine, in a yard like yours, is absence. You don't find a body. You don't see it happen. You just notice at some point that a bird you'd been watching is no longer there. The morning comes, and the usual shape is missing from the usual branch. I want to tell you about the notched feather cardinal. He first appeared in November 2020. Small notch in the primary feathers of his right wing, easy to identify at any distance. He came the week my dad died. I'm not going to attach meaning to that. I'm going to tell you the fact, and let you do with it whatever you need to. He's come back every winter since. This past November, last month as I'm recording this, I watched for him the way I always do when the temperatures drop and the holly bush fills up with cardinals, looking for that notch in the right wing. He came back. He's still coming. But this week of researching and reading and writing made me think about something I usually try not to think about. He won't always come back. Some November, he won't be at the feeder. He won't be at the holly bush. He will have done exactly what his species has been doing for tens of millions of years, retreated into cover somewhere, gone still, gone quiet. And he will have done it in a place I cannot see, in a way that leaves no body, no evidence, no ending I can point to. And I will only know it happened because he's not where he was supposed to be. This is how birds end, not with a scene, not with a body, not with a moment you can name as the last one. They end in absence. You just get a Tuesday morning when the Tuesday couple is only one bird sitting at the feeder. You get a November when you're scanning the holly bush, and the bush is full of cardinals, and none of them is him. The science tells me this is predator-mediated selection, evolutionary pressure, tens of millions of years deep, to die without evidence, to give predators nothing to follow up on, to end as quietly as possible. I don't know if it means anything more than that. But I do know this is why people feel what they feel when a backyard bird disappears. You don't get a last moment. You don't get to be there. You don't get to say goodbye. You get a Tuesday when they weren't there, and a Wednesday when they weren't there, and at some point, you accept that they're not coming back, and you keep watching, and the yard goes on. I keep coming back to this. I don't have great words for it. The feeders outside my window are full right now. It's early on a Tuesday morning in late November, and the Tuesday couple is out there like they always are, right on schedule, 11 grams each, 2 birds doing what they do. You came to this video looking for an explanation. Why you never find the bodies, and you ended up somewhere a little further than that. I know. That's how this yard tends to work on me too. What I want you to take from this isn't the mortality statistics, as real as they are. It's something smaller than that. The birds you see every morning are performing aliveness all the way up until they can't anymore. Every visit to the feeder, every Tuesday, every November, that's a bird that made it. That made it one more time. The fact that you don't see them die doesn't fully comfort me either. But it means something, I think. It means the birds you're watching are here, all the way here, right up until they aren't. Has a bird ever just stopped coming back? One you'd been watching long enough to notice the absence? Tell me about it in the comments. I want to hear about it. I read everyone. I'll see you in the next one.